Hey everyone, welcome back to Comic Frontline. Tonight we're here with both Brant and Lisa from The Last Ember #1, also Last Ember Press. So they're doing a Kickstarter for the book, and we're going to ask some questions to them, and hopefully you guys can jump in and join us with the questions that you have for it. If you want to know anything about the book or the company too, right, Brant?
Yeah, absolutely. Anything you want to know.
Yeah, or the Kickstarter, anything you want to know about from these two individuals, talented individuals, ask in the comments, and we'll go off on them. And between those questions, I have some questions prepared too. So ask away. And first, we'll start off with Brant. First question will be for you, and it's the question I always do these type of things for, because I do them with Kat too for hers.
Yeah.
Give an elevator pitch for The Last Ember.
Okay. Ember Madison is an ordinary teenage girl who one day catches on fire and is imbued with the powers of a fire goddess, and she has to figure out what that means for her life going forward. And at first, she doesn't know. So it's like it's this coming of age mystery mixed with fantasy and mythology.
Cool. That's a nice little pitch, and that's something you don't have to do because you are the co-founder of your publishing company. So it's not like you had to give a pitch yourself in the mirror, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
Lisa, yes. Why don't you tell us a little about The Last Ember Press itself?
Okay. We started the company a couple years ago now, right? 2.5 years ago or so.
Yeah, February 2015.
We mainly decided to do it because we've both been working in the industry for like a long time. I think I've been coloring for like 10 years, something like that. And we kind of wanted to do our own thing, just see how it would go. And that's how it started. So now we're putting out like 3 main series, about to be 4. I would say.
We got Ember, of course. We got Celestial Falcon.
And Pneumatic Cases.
And then we got our anthology Fireside Tales, which is kind of a sporadic kind of thing.
Yeah.
We've got a webcomic about to launch with the Wild. Fairy Stories. Of course. You always create your own book.
Well, it's just because I'm on to the Wild right now, so I forget about it.
Which everyone out there, I've seen some art from that. It is beautiful, and I know some of the story from Lisa, so that is amazing too. It's going to be cool.
I'm excited about it.
All right. So we have Scotty Showman in the comments. Welcome to the show, Scotty. If you have any questions for Brant or Lisa about the book, about the company, or about Kickstarter, anything you want, ask away, and we'll get to them. So this wasn't the first issue though, Brant, of Last Ember, right?
That's right. Yeah.
All right. Okay. So how can someone get a copy of that book if they want to back this?
Absolutely. #0 we released late last year, and you can actually, if you sign up for our weekly emailing, whatever you want to call it. It's called Around the Fire. I put it out every Thursday. If you sign up for that, you will get a PDF of that like right away. But it's also, if you don't want to do that, you don't want to be bothered with that, it is in multiple tiers on the Kickstarter. The #0 issue is included from the very lowest tier, I think, or it's like the next to lowest tier.
Yeah, and I think it starts at the $3 tier.
Exactly. So you can get the PDF of that at the $3 tier along with #1 and so forth. So that's the 2 ways you can get issue #0 of The Last Ember.
Cool. And tell us a bit about that issue so people can get caught up for this book.
Yeah, absolutely. It's more of a primer for the series, which #0 issues usually are. It's kind of an origin tale, but it's also a flashback. It's a 16-page story. The first 8 pages is a flashback to another girl named Ashley back in like medieval times, and a similar thing happens to her. And then you flash forward to Ember's time, which is present day in Ocean City, Maryland, where a very similar thing happens to her, and that's kind of what kicks off the story. She bursts into flames, and then the story picks up from there.
All right, cool. So we know that Ember is the fire goddess, but what is special about this fire goddess that the other fire goddesses that we have in comic books or fire entities is what separates her from them? Like, what makes her different than a typical comic book fire goddess entity type person?
You know, that's a hard question, because I mean there's a lot of them. We know. I mean there's Phoenix and so on and so forth, and there's going to be comparisons, of course, especially right now with the coming back of the original Jean Grey.
Exactly, perfect timing from Marvel to
exactly.
Like, cool. Let's just do Jean Grey fire god Phoenix story again.
Yeah, exactly, right. But I promise I did not copy that. No, obviously there's going to be elements that are similar. That's just going to happen. But with Ember, a couple of interesting things about her is, one is her background. She's half Irish and half Indian, so you're playing with a lot of different cultures there. And you know, she's American as well. So we're going to kind of slowly delve into some of that as the series goes on. And also there's the mythology aspects of it, because what I'm kind of doing is taking all kinds of mythologies and kind of turning them on their head and mixing and matching and kind of introducing my own stuff into it too. So my hope is to create this entirely unique kind of being that, yeah, she's a teenage girl with fire powers. That, I think, is where the similarities kind of end. And then it's more of a mystery in how she has to figure out how she fits in this world now, with this knowledge that not only is she a fire goddess, but she's the last fire goddess and last of her kind. And what kind of repercussions that has, and who's trying to come after her to make sure that there aren't any more ever. So a lot of stuff going into this that is hopefully going to make it stand out from all those others. Yeah,
it does have a nice a twist on it, because again, it is something that has been done, like you said, but I think the way that you're doing it and the way you're tackling it is much more human than goddess. Like, you're dealing with a lot of her humanity side, which most of these stories, and I'm a fan of Jean Grey, everyone knows that, takes more about the entity than the person. They mainly deal with the entity side of it. They don't deal with the person, and I think that's what I see different about Ember. It's a lot more about the human inside of the girl. It's about Ember Madison more than it is about the fire goddess Ember.
Absolutely. And a lot of people that hear me talk about comics and my stories that I like and stuff, they hear me talk about CrossGen a lot. And I know I go back to that well a lot, and it's just because those books kind of spoke to me. And there was a book that they put out called Mystic, and there was a character named Giselle in that book, and she was accidentally imbued with the mystic powers that her sister was supposed to inherit. And that book kind of focused more on her character as opposed to the entities that kind of possessed her, more or less. She kind of gained. It was kind of like she gained this knowledge, like a Green Lantern ring, or like like the Matrix and Transformers. All the past
Power Rangers,
yeah, all the past sorceresses were imbued in this ability that she got. And you had those voices in the background, but it focused more on her because she was more rebellious than all the others. And I'm not going rebellious with Ember, but it's kind of a similar thing, like you pointed out, that I'm really focusing on her human side, and it's really a coming of age story for her, as well as coming into this ability and what all that means. So.
Yeah, I love what I'm seeing so far, and even before I was a part of this, like with issue 0, I said I loved it. So like even before that, because I wasn't even involved with the last Ember Press at all when I read that.
Right.
So I've been a fan of it since I first started seeing it. So we have a question from Sky Showman.
Okay.
It says, what do you this for both of you, what do you think separates Last Ember Press's lines of comics compared to other indie companies?
You want to take a stab at that, Lisa?
I was hoping you would.
I was hoping for a breather for a second, but no, it's cool. I can start and you can jump in. What separates Last Ember Press's line of comics compared to other indie companies? That's a tough question too. Man, I don't even know how to answer that.
I think it's the diversity of your line.
We do have a diverse line, and we are trying to do several different things, and maybe we're crazy for trying to do several different things this early. You know, we've kind of realized that when we first came out, we released a whole bunch of stuff and we kind of reeled it in. But yeah, we've got the Emberverse, which we're launching, which is kind of a modern day fantasy thing with superhero elements, but it's not really superhero. So you got that whole universe. You got 529 Studios, which is Chris's superhero universe, and then you got the all ages stuff that Lisa's kind of taken charge of, and then you get all these Spark, and then you got all this other stuff around it, like pneumatic cases and the Crimson Badge, which is upcoming, and things like that. So
yeah, that's like steampunk. What did John say? Steampunk meets heart to heart.
Yeah, pretty much.
That's like what he says, right?
Yeah.
I think it's a very you know, great selling point for it because it does.
Yeah,
it's a great story.
Yeah, so I mean, it's hard because we're, like I said, we're trying to do cohesive universes and like just random stuff at the same time. Whereas you take some other companies, they either focus on a shared universe or they focus on just a variety of content. And I guess that's kind of one of the things that makes us different, is that we're kind of doing it all in a way, but at a
much more digital now. You're going to be doing digital also.
Yeah. We're, like I said, we're launching our first webcomic. It's either next month or January. Yeah, The Wild, which is a book that, thanks to our patrons, it was our first Patreon goal that we get to launch that one. So, you know, I think we're coming at this with. We used to say like we're coming at this with a different perspective of seasoned veterans, and it makes us sound like a lot more important than we are. But it's true. We've all been working in the industry or around.
I was just gonna say, you guys been in the industry for a long time, and what else is different is that you guys are coming at it from different angles of the industry, because you've been writers, artists, colorists, inkers, flatters, letterers. Like between you guys did everything that a comic book has, like any position, an editor, like you've done it all. So I think that makes the company a much more well-rounded business model, because you understand all aspects of it, which probably makes you an ideal employer for some of the like the artists and talent that's coming over to you, because you understand what they're going through because you've been in their positions.
Yeah, absolutely, and it, not even just in the comic creation field, but you know, we've also worked around it. You know, John and I ran with Chuck Moore, ran comicrelated.com for years. And, you know, I worked for other websites before that. So we've done the press thing. You know, we got Comic Frontline. We do that too. We've done the review thing. I've done editing and lettering, like you said. Lisa's done coloring and flatting and inking. You know, John's done writing and flatting. And it's just like you said. Yeah, we come from that artist perspective, but also from the outside around the comic community as well. So it's an interesting perspective. I definitely agree with you there.
So we have a new artist for this book too.
Yes.
And since Brant has answered the last couple of questions, I'm gonna go to Lisa on this, because Lisa is actually working hand in hand with the artist, because she's doing the inking and the coloring. So tell us a little bit about Julia Lowley and about the art side of the book.
I think we actually found Julia on DeviantArt a while back. And I sort of focus on the art side. That's what I was going to say in that last question. It's sort of where I try to make sure, I don't know how to describe it, that we have a certain look for a certain style for each book. And We go back and forth about artists all the time. And this one, Brand and I agreed on really pretty quickly that we really loved her work. And thankfully, she was willing to come on board. And I'm having a really fun time inking it, especially. I haven't done a ton of the coloring yet. I've done the cover and a few of the pages I've started. But I can tell already that it's going to be a blast coloring her stuff. It's a little different than issue 0.
Yeah, but I think it's not jarring. Like, you know,
No.
sometimes you'll see an artist shift and you're like, oh, whoa, that's totally different. You know, that's a different take on that character. I think it's a pleasant change. It's not better or worse. It's just it's like a step to the side instead of a step up or a step down from it.
Yeah, I could see that.
You also mentioned that you know, you concentrate more on the art side of things. You tend to. So you also did something that's going to be added to this art-wise, because you're getting your hands into the art yourself, and it's going to be added onto this. If you pledge a certain tier levels, you get a digital copy, and then at other levels you get a physical copy of the Little Ember book. So that was a thing that you started, that you wrote, drew, and everything live on Comic Frontline right here. Tell us a little bit about that story, how they evolved, and anything else you want to tell us about that.
Okay, well, Brant wrote it mainly. Brant and the commenters, you, Jay.
And Chris, we gotta remember Chris.
Yeah, Chris was there. He gave us the sparkles, right?
Oh, you don't remember Chris. Chris will make sure you remember Chris.
That's true.
Well, Little Ember is going to be in the Sparked line of comics, so it's definitely all ages. And it doesn't really fit into the storyline per se, but anyone could pick it up and just read it.
It's kind of like, and we said this on when we did the 24-hour comic show, it's kind of our Tiny Titans.
Yeah.
If you're familiar with that, that's basically what it is.
So I have a really cutesy kind of style of art that I do. I draw clip art and things like that. So this is my first try at a long form comic. So I think it's going to turn out really nice, and I'm excited to keep going on it.
It looks really cool. It looks really good. You did a great job, especially this is your very first thing, and it was live. So I know you personally. I know how you know you're not used to like the public stuff, you know.
No,
so for you to put
really
yourself
difficult
out there, yes. So you did a really excellent job. Your first outing as drawing a full comic live, with everyone watching you, asking you questions and everything. I think you did an excellent job. And even if it wasn't all that stuff, it's still a great job on its own. Like, you just did a great job on that. So I want to congratulate you on that. And I'm looking forward to that, because I would be getting both of them with the tier I pledged to. And I can't wait to see that. I love it. Again, both of these, if you
there it is.
Yes. I am the editor for The Last Ember #1, but that doesn't mean that, you know, I backed it just because I'm a part of it. I backed it myself because I believe in this project, and I always say that, like, with the project that I believe in, I back. And you can go on my Kickstarter, you can see how many projects I backed. And there are creators up there that I backed before that I didn't back again, or I backed once, and I choose their projects. I don't just back blindly. I only back projects that I believe in, and this one I really do believe in, because it's a really good book. It's got a solid story, has a solid art team, and the creators are just very passionate about it. So if you haven't backed it, there's a link in the chat right now that I put in there. You can follow that and go back it. Or if you can't back it, you can always help it out by sharing it on Twitter, Facebook, any other means you want. Let people know about it and talk about it.
Absolutely.
If you guys have any questions for the two of them, you can for Brant Fowler or for Lisa Moore, the creators of the Last Ember, and of the founders of Last Ember Press, please be sure to drop it in the comments right now, and I'll read them up to you. So Amaka, who comes from us from the Discord, and I know him from Rant Cafe. I watch him every Thursday. Well, some Thursdays because he's not on there every week. But on Rant Cafe on Anime Outroar, he says, "How do you guys think up character designs?"
That's an interesting question. In Ember's case, her whole creation is interesting, the way it came about. And, you know, I've talked about this several times. She was born literally out of our logo. And when we started fleshing her out, we started adding elements to her character. When we settled on doing something mythological, I started going towards Indian, and we started thinking of, you know, the like the ornamental nature of it, the jewelry and things like that. And I just started looking up stuff, and I kind of pieced together this outfit, and I was like, this works with this, and this works with that. And I sent all this stuff to the original artist that did issue number 0, Rudy Sisipto. And I was like, you know, I really like these things for the arms, and you know, I kind of like this. I want some kind of pendant and this kind of thing. And he just took all that stuff and kind of came up with the design of what you see behind me. So you know, I think it comes from different places. It depends on the story and the character, what kind of story you're trying to tell. Sometimes, you know, design elements will jump out at you. Sometimes you have to go through 5, 6 different revisions on paper, sketching things out. One of my very first book I ever put out, I sketched out rough sketches on notebook paper and colored them in myself. And when I finally hooked up with an artist, he kind of made little changes and brought them to life. So I don't know. It just really depends. What do you think, Lisa?
Sorry, I had to unmute myself. Well, personally, I try to work really closely with the artist, and I find as much reference material as I can. Like, this is sort of the direction I want to go. And with the Wild, especially, it's working that way. I find a bunch of things to send the artist, Catherine, and I sort of tell her, you have free reign and come up with what you think will work. And then if anything needs to be changed, we'll do that. But usually she gets it exactly right. And I'm like so happy. So because I want her to have as much input as she can, because it's her story too.
Yeah, and that's another thing, just to kind of bounce off of that comes into what you were talking about earlier, Jay, with the perspective we come from. Since we are kind of artists ourselves, I think that enables us to be considerate of the artists that we work with and want them to be part of the process, and because we know that side of it too. And you know, I think that's important too, that they have a voice, and that's any artist I've ever worked with. I've always been like, okay, especially with my scripts, I'll say like, okay, this is what I'm envisioning. If you can do it, if you see a better way of doing something, let me know and we'll talk about it, or show me.
Oh yeah. And while we're on the subject of creating a character, I know Brant has told this story 100 times, so I'm going to spare him. I'm going to make Lisa tell the story of how Ember came to be. Just because I always hear from Brant, but Lisa is a big part of how Ember was born. So Lisa, tell us.
Okay. We had come up with the name Last Ember Press that one afternoon, and he went in there. We discussed a flame for the logo. That's pretty much all we'd talked about. And he went in there and did his magic. And I would think I was in bed already. I was ready to sleep. And he finished, and he sent me a sample of it on Facebook or something. And I texted him back, and I was like, wow, that's really cool. Did you put that girl in there on purpose? And he was like, sure. And he said, no, I didn't even see her. And so I got up and we talked about it for a little while, and I showed him exactly where I saw it, because he still didn't see it at first. And then once he started seeing her, it's all he could see and think about. It was like, and then that's how he and John started talking the next morning before I was even awake. I was like, we have this idea now for a whole new series.
Yep.
So
Yeah.
it's pretty cool.
See, I've always heard Brant tell that story, so it was nice to hear Lisa tell it.
It's nice to hear from her perspective as well. I'd forgotten that I sent it like when she was already gone to bed. That's funny. Yeah, I have to give John credit too, because he did kind of help springboard the idea behind Ember. And as a matter of fact, in issue 0, the plot is by John and I, and you'll see that in the issue. So yeah, I have to give him credit for that, because he came up with this base idea, because it was something he was already thinking about, and we just kind of like started creating the foundations of a universe out of it. So exciting.
Another thing I do want to put out there for this comic, and this goes with all Last Ember Press stuff. If you get a Last Ember Press book, you get high quality paper. It's like, that's something that I could have said when you were asked about, when Sky Showman asked about what separates you from other indie companies. A lot of it is also that, because like even Marvel quality paper is not as good as Last Ember Press. Like, they need to step up their stuff, because Last Ember Press has a nice, it's a nice thick stock, and it's also not a runny stock, so like you won't get your thumbprint all over it. I've had the books in my hands plenty of times, never had a time where a thumbprint was on there or anything. And when they ship it, they take care of it, and they make sure that it's not one of those packages come out all dent up and ding, and you have a damaged book by the time you get it. It's a nice, careful way that they do it. So I do think that puts you guys above a lot of the other indie comic book companies that are taking to Kickstarter and all to back their books. So
thank you. That means a lot. That's something that was very important to both of us when we started this company. We were like, we've seen a lot of. I'm not going to name names, caught any printers or anything like that, but we've seen a lot of different levels of quality through indie and professional comics, and we just really wanted our books to stand out and be as good as we could get them with still making a profit. And because printing is not cheap, but we were lucky enough to find a printer via a friend of ours, Victor Dandridge, kind of set us onto a guy up in Indiana, I believe, and he does phenomenal work. We sent him samples, and he matched it as close as he possibly could, and we were just thrilled with that. So we're very proud of our books.
Justin, Exile State Comics says, question for both Lisa and Brant. When are you at your most creative? Early morning, middle of the day, or late night? Which is, I want to add, which is kind of very fitting right now, because you guys are in kind of a transition, right?
Yeah, that's funny. We most people that have followed us know this by now, but we recently moved into offices, which is where we're at right now. She's actually right in the next room, which is, you probably hear us echoing, and we keep muting our mics. Sorry about that. But we've been here for let's see, we moved in October 16th. So we've almost, well, no, actually it was a few days after that. But so we've been here almost a month, I guess, close to it.
Yeah, about that.
Yeah. So, and we're still getting the lay of the land, but we've shifted because both of us are kind of night people. Me more than Lisa. Lisa's usually in bed like by 1, 2 at the latest. Me, I'm like up till almost daylight. It's just the way I've always been. I've been a night owl.
Almost daylight. Yeah.
Yeah.
Brant's still up at like 10 o'clock in the morning Eastern time. Okay?
Sometimes.
He's like, I didn't go to sleep, man. I'm about to go to bed. I mean, you are a night owl. Like, dude, you were used to. You're getting a lot better because you're in your office, so you are a lot better at it. You used to be like going to bed at before noon.
Yeah, and let me explain. Our office is in another city, technically. I mean, it's only about 20-25 minutes away, depending on traffic, but it's technically in another city, so we're not up here at 4 o'clock in the morning, which is what I would be at home. We haven't really settled on a schedule yet. We've tried, but we're usually in here by 10-ish, and we'll stay until like 6 or 7 at night. So it's a bit of a transition for me because, like I said, I've been a night owl my entire life. Even when I was in school, I would stay up until 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, sleep for 2 hours, get back up. Just the way I've always operated. So I'm much more creative. To answer the original question, I'm much more creative in the middle of the night. That's when the creative juices just start to flow, and it's a peaceful time for me, for whatever reason. So I don't know what about you, Lisa?
For me, it's mainly I can be on any schedule as long as it's consistent. If I get enough sleep, then I'm good, and I can get to work, and I can do the things I need to do. But before we moved in the office, for a while it was night, like Brant. But I don't know. It really depends on how much sleep I get. That's all it's down to.
She's like, as long as I have my 8 hours and my cup of coffee, I'm okay.
No coffee,
Lisa likes
but
sleep.
8 hours.
Okay. You're like me, Lisa. I don't drink coffee either, but most people I know drink coffee. So
I hate this stuff.
I didn't drink coffee until I turned 30. And then for whatever reason, I started drinking it.
I drank coffee when I wasn't supposed to drink coffee. Yeah, because it's that taboo thing. You're not allowed to do that until you're older. And I was like, yeah, okay, I'm going to do it. So it was one of those things. But yeah, and do either of you guys have like a notepad or something that you write down like little notes about stuff, like maybe when you're in the middle of the night and you just wake up and you're like, oh, maybe Ember is half Indian, half Irish, or like something like that. Like
I have so many notebooks. I mean, I have a whole box just of notebooks from stuff I've just written down over the years. But yeah, I have one on my bookcase in my bedroom, and if I'm not near a notebook of any kind, if I forget it or whatever, I pick up my phone and open a recording app and just record notes for myself. So, yeah, totally.
Technology today.
Right.
It went from having notepads to having just, it went from like, I think it was like a lot of people had mini recorders too, and now it's like just on your phone.
Yep, exactly.
How about you, Lisa?
For me, it's my phone again. I use Google Drive, and whenever I think of something, I go in there and I'll just start a sheet of just notes, and I'll use that when I start writing. I've got several concepts that I've done that way.
Bringing it back to Ember and my phone, mentioning that, I was it was late at night. I forget what I was doing, but I was like isolated somewhere. I wasn't around a computer or notebook or anything. And the entire plot for the first issue of Ember was recorded on my phone. And then I promptly threw that entire plot away and started from scratch because I didn't like it. But interesting origins of Ember.
So we have another question from Soul Maka. It said, do you guys think it's important to think of the ending of a story or the end result of where you are leading to? Or do you think it's the initial concept is the most important thing?
I think it totally depends on the story. There are some stories where I feel like you have to know where you're going. You have to know where it's going to end to be able to tell that story. And there's other stories that are more open-ended, and you let the characters and the story itself kind of develop as you write it. For me, I've done more of that kind, the latter. It's just the kind of characters I tend to write. I leave them a little bit open-ended. But, certain stories, you want them to end at a certain point, and you know where you want them to go. So it really depends on the story you're trying to tell. If you're telling a finite story that has a definitive ending, you've got to know that ending. But if you want something that's going to have a little bit more longevity, or you want it to be a mystery even to yourself, to kind of let it, come to life before your eyes, then that's the route you go. And that's something every writer will probably have a different opinion on.
How about you, Lisa? What's your opinion on it?
I sort of agree with him. Like with the Wild right now, I'm doing it in chapters. So I sort of have like the first arc figured out in my head, like where I want that to end and what some of the reveals that I want to happen. But because it's going to be a webcomic, I don't know the actual ending yet, because it can go so many different directions and I can do so many different things with it. But with things like fairy stories, I know sort of how it's supposed to end, and I know that it's going to only be 3 issues long. So that one, I think in the future, anytime I do shorter things like that, I'm going to know exactly how it's going to end and sort of work my way toward that a little better. So yeah, it just depends on what you're doing. But with the Wild, I'm going to do the arcs that way. I'm going to sort of know where I'm headed at the beginning of each arc before I start writing.
Another thing, kind of bouncing off of that, do you guys think like a series Bible is like, because The Last Ember is an ongoing series. It's not like a mini series or anything. This is going to be an ongoing series. So do you think something like a Bible is fitting for you? So this way you know, like, oh, I can't do this because, you know, that's not a part of her story, or, you know, I have to make sure I keep in mind this and that.
I think for Ember, that's definitely something we'll be doing. I think that's very important for Ember, especially because, you know, she's the first character in the first book in this Emberverse, this universe that's going to grow. And, you know, there are going to be other books and things in there. They're going to loosely tie together. And then, you know, at times, you know, it's, you know, how shared universes work. So yeah, that for a project of that girth, I think it's definitely something that's necessary.
And how about you, Lisa? Even with The Wild, do you have like a kind of a Bible? Like, because I know the stories were very detailed, your story.
Yeah, I don't have anything like that yet, but I think the longer it goes, I'm going to have to start writing something like that to remind myself because I have a terrible memory. I could put something in there and completely forget.
Which is something I had to mention because, you know, I'm a continuity freak. Like I get teased about it all the time. That's just something I always think about whenever I write something. When he said about going to the, you know, the end of the story, I have like, when I think of an idea, I think of like a whole universe, and then I like build the story into that universe. Like that's just the way my brain works. So I was just wondering if other people think like that. I don't think anyone thinks like me though. Not on my level. I'm just crazy. So
I don't think I think quite that grand yet.
I would get lost in your mind, Jay.
I get lost in my mind. And I've been taking it on the routes for 40 years. I get lost. So Baka, no, I'm sorry. Sky Showman asks, question for Lisa or Brant. Who is your favorite superhero growing up, and can we see any of the influence in Last Ember? So, Brant will be the first one.
I will fill that one totally. Anybody that knows me knows that my favorite superhero character was always Spider-Man. I watched Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends growing up. You know, that's the first superhero that I really came in contact with in any way, shape, or form. And there was something about the everyman aspect of Peter Parker that appealed to me. I could be that kid. And that's something that I still love to this day. Not getting in the Spider-Man debate, how amazing Spider-Man's going or not. But I'm just saying that's something about that character that has always appealed to me. And it's something that I think I try to infuse, not to be like Peter Parker, Spider-Man, whatever, but just because I appreciate that aspect. And I think people can relate to that aspect. So definitely with Ember, she's your average, ordinary teenage girl. So you're definitely going to have some of that relatability with her that you see in Peter Parker.
I think that's a warranted thing though, because you want a character that's relatable. You don't want a character that, you know, no one's going to get. You don't want that uber like perfect or rich or talented person. You want someone that is flawed, and I think you know that's a perfect lesson to grab from Peter Parker. And it's not like, oh, you know, she's got spider powers. No, it's just that you took the lesson from Peter Parker and you, morphed it into this. So, how about you, Lisa?
Well, I was pretty late to superheroes. Actually, I didn't read any superhero comics when I was growing up. I read more like the newspaper strips kind of thing, Garfield and Peanuts, and they still are sort of my favorite. Peanuts is my favorite. But when that first X-Men movie came out, I realized that I really liked Rogue. And it's the first time that I wanted to go out and pick up a comic book with something that I was exposed to in another medium.
Oh, cool.
So I think Rogue would be my favorite superhero, but I'm not writing it, so it doesn't really influence the last Ember.
See, I didn't even know that. That's I'm learning stuff, so that's cool.
A new Ambu says, "Hey guys, so welcome. Also
Hey.
welcome Killer Red, who
Yeah.
says, how important is fan service?
How important is fan service? Lisa. Yeah. Took you to the wolf. Well, I mean, define fan service, because I mean, there's a lot of interpretations to that term.
Yeah, we've discussed that on Frontline Live a lot about what is fan service.
Yeah, and there's differing opinions of that on Frontline. So that's kind of an interesting question. I would love to hear your definition of fan service, and then I can tell you more accurately how important it is.
Yeah, Killer Red, expand on that question. Tell us what your definition of fan service is. And Lisa, do you have an opinion on that, or you want to wait for the
well,
answer?
I guess the only thing I could say is that I would never do anything purposefully to tick off a fan. Like,
or to cater to them.
That's what I was saying. If cater to, I think it would depend on if it serves the story. Either way, if it upsets them, but it really is what you feel is the next story development, you can't shy away from it just because you think someone won't like it, I guess is what I'm going with.
That's a good answer.
All right, so we have another question here from Scotty Showman, which is, as comic reviewers, I'm sure you guys have read issues you wish you could change. How liberating is it for you to have this brand new world to work with where you can do whatever you want?
So liberating. Honestly, it's one of those things where when I was growing up, I wanted to be a comic artist and I wanted to work for Marvel. That was like my dream. And then, you know, as I slowly went away from art and became a writer, I still wanted to work for Marvel. And you know, as you start digging in and you start creating your own characters and everything, and you learn more about the industry and how it works and how working for other companies works and how much say they have in what you do, while it would still be cool to work on one of my favorite characters, I love the idea of controlling what goes on in my book. I love being the one to say, okay, well, this character can or can't do this, or they can go, you know, beyond the limits that nobody can put that limit on me. I think that's totally freeing for a creative type person. And now looking back, I think it would be very hard to work within constraints. I could do it, obviously, but it's a whole different ballgame. You got to get in a completely different mindset, I think.
How about you, Lisa?
Yeah, I think I'm similar. One of my best comic reading experiences has been when I read Runaways for the first time, and I love the character of Gert, and they killed her. And that was one of the times I wish I could have jumped in there and said, what were you thinking? And had control to change it. So having that control from the very beginning, yeah, it's really awesome.
I think Rainbow Rowell thought the same exact way.
Yeah,
I'm extremely happy right now.
Yes.
I've been waiting for you. They kept bringing other ones back in, and I was like, what are you doing? She's just there. So I'm happy.
So we have another question from well, the explanation for Killer Red is, you know, the obvious stuff, like for certain demographics. Example is Baywatch, you know, which is the cheesecake, you know, the cheesecake factor, where they you know, make the girls, you know, run slow motions for the guys, you know. So that kind of like fan service. Like, are you gonna maybe, like, how do you feel about like making sure that, like, oh, I want to get the, like, the the guys in there, so I'm going to put in a lot of sexy girls. I'm going to get the girls in it by going super romance love triangles and quadrangles and all that kind of stuff. Like, I think that's the kind of situation he's talking about.
Honestly, for me, one of the best pieces of advice I ever got as far as writing goes is I'm trying to think of how it was worded, but basically, don't try to write to an audience. Write what you want to write, and the audience will find it, kind of thing. Mm-hmm. That's paraphrased, and it was said much more eloquently than that to me. But I don't believe in trying to craft a book to reach a certain demographic or reach a certain audience. I think when you do that, the heart is not in the story, mm-hmm. and it just becomes dribble that you kind of just dole out. And I'm much more of a, hey, I'm passionate about the story, I'm going to write it. I don't. That's just my personal take on it. I don't like just writing stuff that I don't have some kind of connection to. Mm-hmm. And if it doesn't reach, an audience, then, because I didn't put this or that in it, then it wasn't for that audience to begin with. That's the way I feel about it.
Yeah, plus, like, if you cater to one particular demographic, then you're losing out on all the other demographics. Like, so I think you got to go into a more open.
Yeah, I think the reverse of that, when you think of it in marketing terms, and I'll let Lisa answer, I think instead of trying to say, okay, let's put this in it so we can market it to this people, I think you create the story, and then you're like, okay, this element can be marketed. Let's pull this out and push it to, do it that way. It's much more fluid.
Yeah, definitely. How about you, Lisa?
I agree with that, but I think I would also say that if you have that story in mind from the very beginning and don't shy away from it, just have the whole thing reflect that, but don't throw it in where it doesn't belong.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, I wouldn't want to see Ember, for instance, playing up the cheesecake, having the sexy covers and all that just to get that guy to pick up the book,
Right.
Which is, I think it's a book for many demographics. It's not just a girl book or a guy book, quote unquote. I think it's something that anybody can relate to because it's like you said, it's a coming of age story, and it deals with a lot of stuff like mythology. It deals with fantasy. It deals with coming of age. So it has a lot of different aspects for a lot of different fan bases. Like, I love it, and Kat loves it, and we usually like two different types of books, So for us to come together and like it, and we like it for different reasons. She likes it for the coming of age stuff. I like it for the mythology stuff.
Right.
So me too.
Like, it's like the two different kinds of people are meeting it, and I think there's like even a third or fourth demographic that could find something in this book for them. So there's always something. I think that if you limit yourself to trying to get a niche audience, that's all you're ever going to get. You're never going to expand and grow.
Yeah, exactly. I agree.
All right, so next question is from Sol Maka, who says, what was your favorite aspect you have written so far, Brant?
My favorite aspect?
Yeah.
Of Ember. That's tough. And all these questions are tough. I like every aspect of her. That's the thing. I think the most interesting aspect for me is something that I haven't really done before, which is the mythology aspect of it. Because I'm a mystery nut and I'm a fantasy nut, and I've written coming of age kind of stuff, and that's kind of in my wheelhouse. But the mythology is kind of stepping outside what I'm used to. So that's probably the most interesting aspect of Ember for me. Learning more about that, the different cultures and backgrounds and all that stuff, and trying to piece that together and infuse it into the book. Yeah.
Let's see. We have Lisa. You want to take a shot at that also? What was your what you got? What aspect do you like about writing so far that you've written? Because you wrote fairy stories, and you're writing The Wild right now. So
yeah. I hadn't thought about answering writing question. Let's see. With the Wild, I'm really liking creating a world that is not this one. So it's a fantasy project as well, and I have never done anything quite like that. Fairy Stories is sort of like that, but not really. It's just any kind of general fairy tale kind of land. But this one's a little different, so I'm having a blast creating the world.
Cool. All right. So Somaka also says you gotta love your first story, otherwise you won't have an interest to continue the story, right? And then Killer Red says, thanks for answering my question. It's a dilemma they're currently facing with their project. So, any other questions you guys have for the Last Ember Kickstarter, which is right now you can check it out at Kickstarter.com/Kickstarter.com. Wait, I want to get this right. Sorry, my mind is like a little frazzled right now. Long day. It's Kickstarter.LastEmberPress.com. Very easy to remember, and I just screwed that all up. I'm so sorry.
I think Jesse asked the question up above, by the way. I don't think we filtered that one.
Okay, let me see.
The creative difference.
Oh, yeah. Okay, yeah. Okay. How do you, JLS Comics says, how do you work through creative differences, or is it always a seamless cooperative effort? So, who wants to feel that one first?
I can't tell if Lisa wants me to go first.
I can go.
Okay.
I guess. It's
Sure.
It's never seamless, but we're pretty good at working things out. I can't remember any time where we really disagreed so badly that it caused an argument or anything. We always talk through something until we come to the best solution for both of us.
Yeah, with each other.
So far, yeah. Yeah,
No,
with each other.
That's a little different. Just being honest. Yeah, with Lisa and I think we've got a good rapport when it comes to the creation process. Yeah, we've disagreed. We've even like butted heads a little bit. Not like, one of us will have like a strong feeling about something and we'll go to bat for it. But like she said, we'll talk it out, and it always tends to kind of smooth out in the end. We have butted heads a little bit more intensely with some of the other writers we worked with, but it's always ended amicably as well. It's never been like we've turned it into an argument. It's just when you work with creative types, everybody's passionate about what they're bringing to the table, and sometimes those passions clash a little bit. And when the difference between Lisa and I working through something and us working with other writers is when we're working with other writers, it's usually us as publishers or editors working with them. And, it's a different dynamic when you're working in that capacity. So obviously there's going to be a little bit more, coming up against the wall. But so far we've been very fortunate with the people we've worked with, where we've been able to, come to compromises or agreements or whatever across the board.
Yeah, you guys have a nice team, like a solid team, art team, writers. Like, you're really a solid company right now. So I think that's really good. And I think it's because, first and foremost, you guys respect everyone.
Yeah.
So that, I think it's like the biggest thing with you guys is that, like, if you don't know Brant or Lisa, they're two of the most nicest, kindest, polite people you would ever meet. And that's not saying anything. Like, these are just people that actually make me want to be a better person. Like, I would love to not curse like Brant. Like, I hate that I curse so much, but it's living in the city is what happens to you. Yeah, like, Brant is just like a really solid guy, and Lisa's a really solid woman. So together, I don't think like they would have that many problems with people, because again, you guys worked in all kinds of aspects of comics. So, like, I think you understand more than the average editor or the average, comic book publisher. You know, you guys have been where these people are. You know, you've been in the writer's chair, you've been in the art chair, you've been in the editor's chair. You know, you've been in all these places that I think you're a little bit more cooperative with your other creators.
Yeah, I've also worked in tech support, and I've worked in business offices and things like that. And I've dealt with people a lot in that way, and you kind of learn how to deal with people, in a polite manner. But with me, you mentioned respect, and I think that's one thing with me is I respect you until you lose it. It's not you don't have to earn it with me. It's like I give you respect until you've done something to lose my respect.
Yeah. Any other thoughts on that, Lisa? You'd like to add anything?
That was enough.
No, I'm good.
I was like, I had my screen out to the other one, so I didn't see.
No.
I was just having a hard time reaching the unmute, so I just shook my head.
Okay, so Scotty Showman has our next question, and he says, question: I read Superman for amazing action, Deadpool for cheap laughs, and X-Men for team dynamics and social commentary. What mood and themes should we expect from the last Ember #1?
Wow,
great question.
Yeah, that is a great question. Well, you're gonna get in the first issue, you're gonna get mainly a little bit of mystery, and you're going to get some of the family dynamics and some of her friendship dynamics, and just kind of there's a little bit of angst because at the point that you come into the issue, she's already had the incident where she's caught on fire. A little time has passed between issue 0 and issue 1, and so you have her kind of a little bit freaking out. So that's kind of where you're getting a little bit of drama, a little bit of mystery, and I always have a little bit of lightheartedness in my comics. So there's going to be a mix of humor. So I wouldn't say it's the CW of comics. It's not quite that dramatic and that angsty, but I think you're going to get a little mix of that with the mystery, and obviously you're going to have some action. So it's kind of hard to answer that with just like pinpoint one thing. I'm really playing up the mystery in this though, because in the very first page, there's this mystery figure that is watching Ember, and you don't know what this person wants or what they know, and that kind of kicks off the story.
Cool. How about you, Lisa?
Yeah, that was what I was mainly going to say, was the mystery aspect of it. Just because I know he's such a big fan of mystery stories, there's always going to be that underlying thing.
Yep.
Maybe in everything he writes. Yeah.
It makes the story better. If you don't know, like, I think it's if a story's predictable, why read it? Like, if you know what's going to happen at the end of that story, there's no fun to it. Have a little mystery, have a little fun with it.
I agree.
All right, so we have another question here. It's from Matter Swordman. So welcome to the Q&A, and thank you for asking questions. So what do you think is the most important part when creating the antagonist for the main character? What is the vital thing that character needs him to qualify as a good antagonist?
Well, it's kind of implied in the term. They have to have, if not the exact opposite, a pretty opposing view to the main character. Whatever that may be, whether it's your classic, oh, I want to save the world, I want to destroy the world, or if it's more complex, like a Professor X and a Magneto, where they just see things differently. They want the same goal and they go about it different ways. I think you have to have that thing, whatever that thing is for your character, that is so opposing in viewpoint or in action that brings them to action to kind of go up against it. Does that make sense? It's a little convoluted, but I mean, it could probably be said a lot more simple, but that's not me.
How about you, Lisa? Any thoughts on it?
Mine's similar. I was going to say, I think the motivation for them has to be as strong as the motivation for your main character. So Yeah, they've got to match up. So very similar to what he said.
I would throw in probably also the best antagonists for me are the ones who don't think that they're the villain.
Right.
Like if they think that what they're doing is justified in their head, I think that's the best antagonist. Because
Lex Luthor, Magneto, that kind of yeah, absolutely.
Otherwise, you get like this mustache twirling type, and they're good for laughs, but they're not good for a real good story, like a sink your teeth into a story, which I think all the great antagonists are.
I completely agree.
All right, guys, we got about like 10-15 more minutes left of the Q&A, so if you want to get some more questions in, please shoot them out there, and we'll answer as many as possible for now. But just keep hitting us with those questions. And we have another one from Jesse. He says, "Where are you having the inaugural office Christmas party this year?" So,
well, it's a pretty small office and only 2 people here, but yeah, we'll decorate. How about that? I'll throw some tinsel and some garland up behind me or something.
We'll we could throw a Facebook Live Christmas party.
There you go. There you go.
There you go. An inaugural Facebook Live Christmas party. Everybody has an invite.
Awesome.
And you save a lot of money on the caterer. You don't have to get a caterer.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, Brent. Once again, because there are some people who came in after we explained it in the beginning, tell us a little bit about the Kickstarter and about the book.
Yeah,
just
absolutely.
So for people who just came in.
Sure. Last Ember, like I said at the beginning, for all those that were here, is about a teenage girl who suddenly has this event where she catches on fire and slowly learns that she is the last of her kind, the last fire goddess, and she has to discover what that means for her life, and what kind of responsibility that holds for her. And it's going to, pardon the pun, but ignite like her entire world, her family, her friends, and everything as secrets start to unfold. And a very interesting story with all kinds of layers going on. The Kickstarter ends in 8 days. It's ending on November 17th. As this show is going on, we actually did get a pledge during the show. That's awesome. We are up to, I think it's 58% funding right now. We're at 2043. We have 121 backers. So we're getting very close. We're actually $57 away from our next milestone, which for all backers, we've been releasing these milestone bonuses, prints and digital comics and stuff that we are adding to every backer's haul, $10 and above for physical stuff. And it's been a great turnout. People have been talking about it. People have been very generous and supportive. Can't thank everybody enough for that. Really stoked.
Yeah, and this is the first book that you guys have taken to Kickstarter with. Before that, you guys put out each and every book out of your own pocket. You funded everything yourself, and this is the first time you taken to Kickstarter. So that's a big thing for them. They this is a self-owned company. They have a lot of titles, like Brant said earlier. You got fairy stories. You have let me look at my wall. Fireside Tales.
I can pan over here and you can see 3 of them in my background right there.
You have Fireside Tales. You have The Last Ember, of course. You have Pneumatic Cases. You have Celestial Falcon. And I'm literally looking at my wall because I have everything up there. I don't have it up on now because I don't want to lag my internet with everything, but yeah, I have everything up there. I'm a big supporter of Last Ember Press. So we have another question from Scotty Showman. Says, question, I've heard a lot of great impressions of the visuals of Last Ember Press thus far. How important is it to you guys to have great visual representation to bring this story across? That's a great question.
So important to me. It is a great question. It is to Lisa as well. And you've mentioned, multiple times throughout this, how we come from an artist perspective as well. And that's the beautiful thing about this medium above any other is
Hello? Hello? I'm not sure if it's me or them, so I'm just going to restart this. Hello? All right, I think Brent and Lisa kicked out for their internet. I wasn't sure, so I restarted mine. Sorry guys. They should be back shortly. If not, we'll just wrap this up. But let's see, where were we at? We were at the impressions with the visuals. Scotty. All right, thanks, Scotty, for saying. Okay, they're back. I hear them.
Yeah.
Okay.
I had to get on my phone. Our internet went out. Sorry about that.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if it was you or me, so I like restarted the show real fast. Like I restarted my end of it because I was like,
Yeah.
oh, I got it. Because remember the last time it happened with you, me, and Kat, so I was a little shaken by that. I was like, I hope it doesn't lock them out. But yeah, so they're back. So you want to finish your thoughts on that, Brant? It's about the visuals, how you are with the visuals, and get the story across.
Yeah. I'll try to be brief on it. All I was saying was it's a very important aspect of comic creation for both of us. This medium is so special in that it does marry writing with art in a way that no other medium does. And so for us, we try very hard. And now my internet just came back on the computer, and I hear myself. Hold on, turn that off. There's two of me now. Anyway, we try to. Man, I'm
because
you have to mute the microphone.
Oh, I gotta mute the mic. Sorry about that. Hold on. There we go.
Lisa's got
Technical difficulties. You gotta love them, man.
See, this is something you won't get anywhere else, people.
You gotta tell me when you're moving.
I'm sorry. Your computer just joined this call too, by the way. Okay. We try to, like Lisa said earlier in the show, we try to match the art style to the story. We're very particular about that. We want it to be the perfect fit. And so that visual representation is extremely important to both of us.
Cool. And Lisa, what do you think? Anything you want to add to that, or
do you want to add to it, Lisa?
I would add that if we don't love the art, we don't go for that art. It's personal preference.
Yeah.
And I want to say Lisa does great with the colors for them. Like her colors, they're not. A lot of colors have like one style and they fit one. Like they just use that style for everything. Lisa, I know for a fact because I've seen her do live tutorials and all that stuff. She marries her style for coloring with the art. Like she'll be like, I don't think this is the right thing for last Ember. She'll be like, maybe I can play with this a little bit. She did that with the little Ember too. She's like, maybe I can play with this a little bit. There's a very conscious decision that you make, which is very important because a lot of people overlook colorists a lot because, they just think of art, they think of the pencils and they lump it all together as one thing. But you add a lot to the art with your colors, Lisa.
Thank you. I really do try to pick something special for each book we're doing so that they all feel a little different. So I'm attempting.
Like you look at all of them, you would think like different colorists are doing them because you have a distinct style for each and every book. Like the amount of cases and less Ember are not the same visually because your arts change the tones and it follows with it. Like, but some artists, you know, you can see, oh yeah, that's the same kind of palette that they use in every single book. You like to mix it up, and I love that because it makes it visually pop out more.
Oh, thank you. It's more fun for me too to mix things up because I get to do something different each time.
All right, cool. Let's see what the next question is. I know we had another question. What do you think of an antagonist that is antagonizing the main characters because he is preparing the main characters for bigger threats that is coming in the future because he knows the threat himself? So Master Swordsman asks that question, or something along that line. So kind of like, I guess maybe a little bit of a zoom for the Flash, like where he was trying to prepare him. Like it was just, you gotta be better.
Yeah, I think that's. I mean, it definitely depends on the story you're trying to tell, but I think that's a definitely an interesting route to go with the character if it makes sense for it. I won't say which book because I don't want to spoil what's going on, but there are a couple of books we have going on that have that mystery element to it, and I can say at least one of them has aspects of that going on at least at first. So yeah, I definitely like that kind of story if it fits what you're trying to do.
I agree.
All right, let's see the next question. I know there was another one. Dark Avenger CXS comes in and says, "Welcome, Chris." He says, "Love and support for Last Ember. Brant and Lisa are different places. Are in two different places. They're cloning now. They're cloning now." Yeah, it's a little bit of internet fun. You know how that goes, Chris.
We had to clone ourselves, or we would never get all these books done.
Yes, they got so much work to do there. That's how dedicated they are. They're going to clone themselves to get these books out to everyone. So, all right. So we're going to wrap up this right now, and we're going to have Brant and Lisa each, you know, give another pitch for The Last Ember. And if you want to back that, the link is right there in the comments in the chat right now. And if you can't afford to back it, don't worry. Just please share it with some friends that you think might be interested in it.
Yes.
You know, social media like Twitter, Facebook. Some of these people who are in this chat tonight are from our Discord. So share in a Discord or something. Wherever you can share it with friends and show the love to it, please do so. And thank you anyone who did support it from this chat while we were going on the Q&A. So thank you anybody who did support it during that. And go ahead, Brant and Lisa. How would you like to end this, like with your pitch or your, however you want to phrase that?
Well, my pitch is going to be a little different because I want to push the milestone rewards because I'm really excited about some of those. I did a print that you'll get if you back at the $10 level, and there's another one coming that we haven't unveiled yet that I'm even more excited about. So if you get the book, you're going to get all this cool art too. So I really want to get that art out to people because I love it.
Yeah, and our very next one that we're very close to hitting is a very special piece by a good friend, a new, very good friend and very supportive friend of ours, Ryan, who did Sunmaker recently on Kickstarter, and we share that with our newsletter subscribers today, actually, and it's a fantastic print that he kind of dug into the mythology aspects of Ember for this pinup, so it's pretty cool.
Oh yeah, I like
so
that.
Yeah, so definitely we're excited about all the extra stuff we get to share with you beyond Ember. You know, and one of the tiers is you get every single book we've done. And the stuff that's upcoming next year, so it's a pretty good thing,
including the Wild issue 1.
Including the Wild. And before we do go, I do want to plug our artist Julia Lawley that we mentioned, you know, throughout this show. Her art is just phenomenal. It's fantastic. When we saw it, like you said, we come across her and we kind of bookmarked her, and then when we started looking for a new artist for Ember, it was like, oh well, this is perfect, and it fit, and she has been a charm to work with, and I couldn't be happier.
And she does it very quick. Like, she has a quick
Yeah.
turnaround.
Oh, she's so quick.
She is fast.
Yeah, very good, very quick.
Real fast, also, I want to mention some of the things that you can get from the rewards tiers. Like Lisa said, you get a lot of the bonus milestone things that are coming out, which is prints. There, some are available for the physical level. Anyone who starts on the physical level. Some are for anyone who starts on any level. They can get it. You also have like be in the comic book. That's for one of the upper tiers. Have you help out with a logo or lettering, and Lisa with some coloring. So like you got professional people there. Like Lisa is currently working on, I believe, Garfield still, right, Lisa?
Yep.
Garfield.
So you have the colorist of Garfield at Boom. She does a lot of work over at Boom. So you can have like professional colorist. Brant has done letters for books from Image and everywhere else. Like, he's been all over, and they both done other aspects of art, like flatting and stuff for other companies. So you have great people here that, you know, if you get that tier, you can have them work on your project with you for a project. And you know, there's all kinds of stuff. Like Brant said, you get every single Last Ember Press. All the books that we mentioned earlier, you get all of them. Plus, you get like issue number 2 of Celestial Falcon and issue number 2 of Pneumatic Cases. So those, you know, will be coming out soon. So you get them. So there's also a lot of things out there.
Yeah. Also, just to add, we have 2 crossover pinups. One of them you can see. I'll try to show it. One of them you can see right there. One of them is by Andrew Law, and you get that by backing both our Kickstarter and his Kickstarter, which is ending very soon. You have to back both of them at the physical copy level, and we have one with. We trying to show like that. We have one with SFC Tag Team, which is a cool print of Ember and another fire-based character from that comic, Kasai. If you back both Kickstarters at 20, you get that print. So a lot of cool stuff. And then we just printed this out on this like metallic paper today. This
testing out paper.
Yeah, I don't know how well it's going to show the shimmer, but this thing is gorgeous. This is a pinup by Rudy, who did issue 0 art. This is one of my favorite pieces.
That one looks a lot different than the one that I have, and mine looks beautiful. That one looks, oh wow, that one looks like almost 3D-ish.
Yeah, it's this paper we got a packet to test it out, and we were trying this. So yeah, we're gonna do more on this kind of paper. It looks phenomenal.
Oh yeah, definitely. I'll tell you, just the plain one again looks phenomenal. I always tell Brant that should be on a T-shirt somewhere. That looks like a T-shirt print. Like, it just looks phenomenal. So great art, great book,
actually,
great story.
If you walk with me, Lisa.
Hold this way, Lisa. Don't let me pull your ear out.
I can show you the other version right there.
Yes.
So I don't know how well it shows.
It's a beautiful version.
Yeah, absolutely.
It shows really well. Yeah, it's a beautiful picture.
And this one right here
you guys are lucky with Ember.
This one right here is one of our postcard bundle images. It's going to be on one of the postcards, and that is by Julia.
Yeah.
And then of course we have the cover.
So I posted the link for the Kickstarter in the chat, and it's also in the comments below already. In the description below. And if you also want more Last Ember Press beyond the Kickstarter, beyond what we gave you today, there's a Last Ember Patreon. So you can check that out, and you can support Patreon by there, where each and every week Brant gives you an exclusive Patreon's only content, and it's some really cool stuff like that's coming out from the Last Ember Press. And again, if you want to also join up, you can go to their main site, which is at lastemberpress.com, and by going there, you can sign up for their mailing list, where they'll email you. Brant doesn't overflow you with the email. It's like very cautious. It's very conscious about not overloading your email, and you always get a lot of good information and a lot of good stuff. And again, you get a free digital copy of The Last Ember #0.
That's right. Awesome.
I'm just putting that link in the comments. I mean, the chat also. And all these links will also be on the description as soon as it goes post live. But the Kickstarter is in there right now, so you can check that out. So, and Brant and Lisa, where can people find you outside of Last Ember Press, so this way they can follow you, on your endeavors wherever you may go and wherever Last Ember Press may go?
I guess the best place to follow me is Facebook. I think I changed my username to Hueville recently.
Yeah.
HUEVILLE. And then keepingitkawaii.com is my clip art stuff. That's the other place I'm most active.
Yeah. My YouTube channel at Brant Fowler, and same for Facebook and Twitter. You can find me on all of those. And if you're interested in lettering, gonzogoose.com. It's GONZO goose.com.
And if you want to follow Last Ember Press anywhere, it's everywhere on the social media, whether it's Twitter, Facebook, I always get Instagram. I always think of the other one, and I never remember that. So yeah, Instagram. All of them are at Last Ember Press, so it's very easy to follow. Go check that out. And again, we're going to. The Kickstarter is what, Brent? 7 days now or 8 days?
8 days. It ends on Friday, yeah. November 17th.
All right, so be sure to go back that up, and if you can't back it, again, share it with someone on social media, anywhere you want.
Yes.
Email it to someone that you may know.
Yep.
So please join that, and thank you so much for joining us for this, and we'll hopefully see you again some other time, some other way, and again, follow everything on social media. Bye, everybody.
Bye. Thank you very much.
Bye.
You're welcome. Thank you.